2 years ago, Sony dropped the PlayStation Portal and the internet exploded.
But then the thing is, the more I look into it, the worse it gets.
It's leaving me scratching my head.
I've had mine pretty much since day one, and it hasn't exactly had the smoothest ride. From the jump, it was slapped with labels like a handheld only for Sony diehards, and to make matters worse, the headaches started to roll in. Latency issues, random boot failures, public Wi-Fi meltdowns, selective Bluetooth support, and the kicker, you couldn't even connect to YouTube, Netflix, or Hulu. At that point, the Portal was making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't all doom and gloom. Sony eventually rolled out updates, and version 3.0.0 was one of the biggest updates that started the cleanup process. And here's the wild part. Despite all that chaos, the PlayStation Portal still became Sony's best-selling PS5 accessory as of early this year. So here we are, almost 2 years later, with a simple but tricky question. Is the PlayStation Portal really worth it? Well, depending on who you ask, the answer might surprise you because gamers still can't agree, and in this video you're going to find out exactly why. Now let's rewind the tape for a second. For those who've been living under a rock or maybe just too busy rage quitting ranked matches, here's the context you need. The PlayStation Portal wasn't some completely original idea that fell out of the sky. This concept had been brewing for years. Remember the Google Stadia? The one that promised you could stream games without downloads or installs whilst playing on your laptop, TVs, phones, all powered by the Chromecast Ultra? Oh, and this controller was the face of the Ultra in case you never came across it. Not long after, we had the Logitech G Cloud. Same pitch, same dream, same lack of success. But here's the twist. Unlike those two, the PlayStation Portal actually caught on. And that's the surprise here because Sony already had a history of handhelds that hadn't done so well. The PSP, an absolute beast in the mid-2000s. Sleek, futuristic, and honestly, a flex if you had one at school. Then the PS Vita showed up rocking an OLED screen before OLED became the standard, and a touchpad before the PS4 controller made it mainstream. The tech was ahead of its time, but commercially, a total misfire. And for companies like Sony, that always means one thing: the tech graveyard. Fast forward more than a decade later and Sony decides to give handhelds another shot. That's where the PlayStation Portal comes into the picture. Before launch, there was heavy skepticism. After launch, yeah, a lot of that skepticism felt justified.
But then the thing is, the more I look into it, the worse it gets.
It's leaving me scratching my head.
Latency issues, random boot failures, public Wi-Fi tantrums, selective Bluetooth support, no storage, no local gaming. The complaints were flying in from every corner of the internet. But here's the part that shocked everyone. Sony didn't just abandon it. They pushed out update after update, and slowly the Portal started to redeem itself. Update 3.0.0, easily the turning point. Consequent updates gave us better public Wi-Fi, expanded network support, reduced input lag, and most recently, cloud streaming, even though it's only in a select few countries. More on the updates a little later in the video. Alright, with the history lesson out of the way, let's dive deeper into the heart of this thing: remote play. Like mentioned earlier, the early days were rough. Personally, I hated the micro status and network lag. Just imagine while playing a game like FIFA, every few seconds your screen stuttering, even with good Wi-Fi. Now, hold on to that thought for a second. I'll come back to it after I clear up this common confusion. Most people always use network lag and micro status interchangeably, and they're not the same thing. To be honest, both are still issues today, even after the updates. The difference? It's not as bad as it used to be. Here's the breakdown. Micro status usually happen when the frame times between your PS5 and Portal don't sync up. Translation, you get random frame drops every so often. Annoying, but survivable. Network lag, on the other hand, is caused by unstable connections. Doesn't matter if your speeds are fast, lag will still creep in, and when it does, you'll see blurred or choppy visuals that last anywhere from a blink to multiple seconds. On really bad networks, it can go indefinitely, which is basically crushing our territory. Now, as we speak, it's a lot better. The issues are barely noticeable for the most part, but every now and then, input lag shows up. If you're into FPS games, you already know what that means. Respawning at the lobby, because you're going to be doing that a lot. Now, while on the subject of remote play, let's touch on cloud streaming. Yes, it's awesome, but there's a plot twist. It's only available in a select few countries. For us here in Australia, we are still stuck waiting on the sidelines. What we didn't have to wait for though was public Wi-Fi support. It got us so excited, but not long after, the issues started to surface. The biggest one, you could only connect to certain public Wi-Fi networks. This got everyone asking, why on earth would Sony put a leash on this thing? The official explanation? They claimed it was about complying with regulations from different countries and regions. Yeah, not exactly the answer people wanted to hear, and the backlash was loud enough that Sony had to respond with update 3.0.1. With that, they opened up public Wi-Fi support. Suddenly, you could take your Portal to the mall, the cafe, the park, or anywhere with public Wi-Fi and still keep gaming. It was a dream, right? Well, not quite, because here's the catch. Most public Wi-Fis are about as reliable as a train showing up on time when you need it the most, which is why 9 times out of 10 I skip the gamble and bring my own portable Wi-Fi. But even then, let's just say that wasn't the last connection problem the Portal had to deal with. I'll explain why a little later in the video. Now, after update 3.0.1, something strange started happening. More and more people were buying the Portal, even though it was getting clowned from every corner of the internet. And naturally, the big question you'd ask is, why? Was it curiosity, comfort gaming, or maybe, just maybe, Sony was actually listening? Turns out, the Portal nailed a vibe. And not just any vibe, a very specific one. Picture this, your partner is knee-deep in Live Island. No problem. Pick up your Portal, lean back, and live your best unplugged life. The kids hijack the TV? No problem. Retreat to the office and keep slaying demons in God of War with Kratos. Bored on the train while on the commute back home? No problem. The train ride doubles up as the perfect time to knock out a few missions on Spider-Man Miles Morales. It wasn't about specs on paper, it was about freedom. The Portal let you take your PS5 anywhere. That is what struck a chord with most people. And yeah, the screen is only 1080p and not OLED, but everything looks surprisingly crisp. The controls? Pure DualSense magic. Those same adaptive triggers and haptics you love, now strapped on both handles with an 8-inch screen sitting snugly between them. Now, hearing how much things had gotten better by this point, you'd think gamers just sat around waiting for updates. Nope, they got creative, because if there's one thing gamers love is finding loopholes. Want to watch YouTube on your Portal back in the day? Easy. Just send your mate a YouTube link through game-based messages and boom, browser unlocked. But that was short-lived. Sony saw that little magic trick and of course, patched it real quick. Same with the battery situation. Early on, there was no way to see the battery percentage, but gamers figured a workaround. Power off the Portal, plug in a charging cable, and when the screen goes dark, a quick press of the power button showed you how much juice you had before it booted back up. Now, just like the other complaints, Sony saw this and rolled out fixes. No more hacks or trickery. As we speak, you can now see your battery percentage straight up. With a headset or earbud connection though, you need some trickery because the Portal still has selective Bluetooth support. Translation? Not every headset or earbud is going to play nice, and unless you've got Sony's official Pulse Elite or Pulse Explore earbuds, well, good luck. Luckily, there's a hack. Instead of dropping a good fortune on Sony's ecosystem, you can get a Bluetooth transmitter. It costs a fraction of the price, and with that you can now connect any pair of headsets or earbuds you own. When the alternative is buying accessories that cost more than the Portal itself, you start to see why this gadget is a cheat code. Anyway, while those gamer hacks were clever, it was really the updates that solved most of the headaches. Well, kind of. In my opinion, the biggest issues were lack of public Wi-Fi connectivity, network lag, and those dreaded micro starters. And to be fair, Sony did fix a lot of that. Now, a few seconds ago I said the issues were kinda solved, and that's because sometimes my Portal just refuses to connect, and the weird bit is my PS5 is just a few meters away and my Wi-Fi rock solid. I've gone down the rabbit hole looking for solutions but found nothing conclusive. And honestly, I've made peace with the fact that as long as the Portal is beaming images over Wi-Fi, some level of lag is inevitable. Part of that probably comes down to hardware too. Sony shipped this thing with Wi-Fi 5 when at the time we were on Wi-Fi 6. So yeah, connection issues were almost baked in from the start, and it wasn't just connections. Another big problem popped up after update 3.0.0. Some portals just refused to boot up. Personally, I didn't experience this, but for those who did, the fix was weirdly specific in one of the Reddit threads I read. By simply plugging in your Portal into a Chromebook and doing a hard reboot, brought it back to life. That left me scratching my head until I found out it was probably stuck mid-update, and by chance the Chromebook helped it finish recovery. Who knows? If anyone in the chat has a better explanation, please enlighten the rest of us. Anyway, boot up issues aside, the Portal's durability also joined the complaints chat. Recently, Pure PSX highlighted how the joystick of his Portal only moved sideways with no vertical input at all.
Launch day Portal, it's kind of basically broken now. It started in the most random way. I was recording one of my monthly update videos when I noticed something weird. Every game I tried, my characters would only look left and right no matter what I did. I could not look up or down.
And to make it worse, his warranty was expired. More than anything, that screams durability issues. Now, if Sony wants to avoid this in future, the solution feels obvious. If they decide to drop the second generation of the PS Portal, make the joysticks modular like on the DualSense Edge controller. That way, if stick drift hits or worse, you just swap the joystick and keep gaming. Hardware fixes aside, the Portal wasn't just making headlines for its problems. At launch, it definitely made the news, but mostly for what it could not do. Hardly anyone was talking about how it looked. The signature white and black colorway didn't get much attention at first, but gamers are gamers, and soon the requests started to roll in. When are we getting new colors? And surprisingly, Sony listened. About a year in, they dropped the 30th anniversary edition, a beautiful nostalgia hit for the OG PlayStation crowd. Tell you what, it was gorgeous. The problem? Getting one felt like an Olympic sport. Scalpers went full final boss mode with listings that sometimes hit higher prices than the actual PS5 the thing was built for. A few months later, Sony dropped the Midnight Black edition. This time round, it was a lot easier to snag because there were fewer final bosses lurking at checkout. If you'd ask me, it showed one thing loud and clear. People were not just buying the Portal to play. They wanted to collect it too, which raises the question, is the Portal turning into a cult classic just like the Vita once did? Well, if the sales numbers are anything to go by, there's a heavy inclination towards that, and it also partially answers the question we asked at the very beginning. Is the PlayStation Portal really worth it? From my experience, the answer leans towards yes. Sony ironed out most of the early issues. Public Wi-Fi connectivity, random boot failures, latency. Those were some of the things that made the Portal more frustrating than fun. Add to that the convenience factor, whether it's knocking out a few more missions when the kids take over the living room, sneaking a few sessions when your partner is binging Live Island, or sneaking a session with Spider-Man Miles Morales on the commute back home, the Portal just nailed the play anywhere vibe. It's not perfect, but for what it is, it delivers an experience that fits a very specific lifestyle. That's why it's still the best-selling PS5 accessory 2 years later. On the flip side, there are some people who think it's not worth it, and their reasons aren't wrong either. Microstarters and input lag, even after updates, haven't completely vanished. Selective Bluetooth support is still a pain unless you grab extra hardware. The durability concerns like joystick drift don't inspire much confidence, and let's not forget, at its core it's still tied to the PS5. No local gaming, no storage, and no freedom to truly untether yourself from the console. That's why you'll also find Portals popping up that cheap on Facebook Marketplace. So, is it worth it? For me, absolutely. It carved out a space in my setup no other device could. But whether it's worth it for you depends on what you expect from it. And judging by the split opinions this far in, this debate isn't going anywhere anytime soon. There you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed and found this video helpful. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and click the notification bell to get notified whenever I post a new video. In the meantime, here's another video you'll enjoy. Until then, people of the internet, I'm signing out. See you over here.